Welcome to the Digital Marketing Mentor. I'm your host, Danny Gavin, and together with industry leaders and marketing experts, we'll explore the meeting point of mentorship and marketing. We'll discover how these connections have affected careers, marketing strategies, and lives. Now get ready to get human. Hello, everyone. I'm Danny Gavin, founder of Optage and marketing professor, and I'm the host of the Digital Marketing Mentor. Today, I have the wonderful opportunity to speak with Akvile DeFazio, president and social media advertising consultant with Akvile. Akvile is a social media advertising agency that provides consulting, account management, and training. They work with a wide variety of social media platforms, Facebook and Instagram, or Meta as they call it these days, TikTok, Pinterest, LinkedIn, Twitter, Snapchat, Reddit, anything you can think of, Nextdoor, Quora, Hulu, anything social advertising related. Akvile started Akvile in 2014. We'll talk more about it. Recently in 2020, she won the Best Small Agency Award in the US Annual Social Media Awards and shortlisted for 3 others, and that's huge. And also, she's named one of the top 25 most influential PPC expert by PPC Hero in 2020. And honestly, she's not on my top 25 list. She's like on my top 5 list. So it's a awesome big deal having her here today. So Akvile, how are you?
I'm doing well, thanks. Thank you so much for having me, Danny.
I'm so looking forward to discussing social media advertising and mentorship because that's what why we're primarily here today. So let's jump right in. Let's talk a little bit about just your background. Where did you grow up? I know it wasn't in the US.
That's correct. I have not had a linear path in life in any aspect of my life, but I was born in Lithuania during the Cold War, and most of my family left and emigrated to Toronto in Canada by the time I was 5. So the Cold War ended shortly after we arrived there, and then I've just been moving all over the US as my family, my mom got remarried, we moved, just through adulthood and college. And now I'm in the LA area. So I've gone continuously west and south my whole life. And now this is where I am.
And I love how you said Toronto, like a real person from Toronto. So, that was awesome. It's like, this is authentic. Love it.
It does come out once in a while, especially when I go back and visit family that's still in Canada. My Canadian accent will definitely make an appearance, and then it takes a few weeks for it to kind of go back in hiding when I'm back in the US.
I love it. I have quite a few family members there, my uncle and then my wife's family. So been there a bunch of times and enjoy going back as well. All right. So where did you go to school and what did you study? Because I imagine that paid social wasn't like a course or a degree back then.
No, digital marketing was not really a thing back then, to date myself. But I actually went to school for physical therapy. I wanted to do graphic design when I was younger, but being immigrants, my parents persuaded me to go to medicine. It was a pure field. There would always be opportunities to work and make a good living and not, we literally moved with like $5 in our pocket, trying to escape from the Cold War. So we didn't have anything. So I didn't want to disappoint my parents. I wanted to go into medicine and be like, maybe I could do design as a hobby someday. So I went to school for pre-med and then realized it really wasn't for me. And I moved into physical therapy because I had a knee injury. So I went to PT myself, and I really enjoyed working with people and helping others. And I felt like that was a much better fit than maybe being in the ER and high stress and no sleep. So I acquired my bachelor's of science degree in exercise science, and then I tried to get into PT grad school to get my doctorate. And I tried for 3 years, and I did not get in, even though I was a straight A student. I had like 1A, and they're like, you should redo it to get an A plus. And I was like, this is my future. This is my money that I have to repay these school loans. So I made the difficult decision to tell my parents I wasn't going to pursue it anymore. Plus, it helped having a college advisor tell me just blatantly, she's like, I think you might want to explore other career opportunities. And like, I think I needed somebody to give me permission to make that step for myself. So I decided to dive into marketing because when I was working at PT clinics as an aide and learning about it, trying to get into PT school, there were some marketing opportunities at the clinics, and I was just so interested in them that I jumped all over them. And I thought that could be a much better fit for me creatively and also to still help people in different capacities. So I ended up doing 1 year of my MBA, thinking that is the route I needed to get into marketing because I had no education on the marketing front. But after 1 year of my MBA program, I realized it was very expensive, and there were only two marketing courses. in a 3-year program. This was accounting and finance. I was like, oh, I'm going to just bet on myself and really learn everything I can. And I fought for a few internships, and that's how it all started.
That point that you brought up about having your advisor tell you, like, you should look for other opportunities or kind of create that space, like, it's okay. And I don't want to use the term fail because it's not failing. It's just like, it's okay to come to realization that this is not for you and move on. It's so important, right? Because we have those things that happen to us all the time during our life,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Oh, yes. And I think that really set the tone for the rest of my career up to this point where, I tell other businesses to test and optimize. And if something doesn't work out, you can always revert. And I gave myself some grace after a few years of feeling like I failed and I couldn't succeed in this other career that, it's like, it's okay. I'm learning and figuring out my life and who I am, what I want to do, because at the end of the day, it's going to be my work and my time and my money paying back for these school loans. So I might as well enjoy something that I'm doing.
And another interesting point, for listeners, is obviously these days MBA programs are a little bit different, but there is such a thing as a master's in marketing as well, where it's kind of like it's still a master's degree. You've got a lot of courses. It's got some aspects of the MBA. So just letting know, like, if Akvile was going to redo it today,
Yes.
or you are thinking about like a master's degree, like there is a master's in marketing, which can provide some more fun than just accounting and stats.
Yes, a lot has changed over the last decade.
So what else would you say, like, from PT or exercise science, whether it's in the classroom or out, but during that time, like, what else did you take from that experience that you're kind of using today, or that's helped set the groundwork for that?
I think just learning how to communicate with different types of people and helping them through a challenge with a solution. And granted, there's only so much I could do in that line of work, because if somebody comes in once a week for PT and they don't do their home exercises, I can't help them succeed past a certain point. So it I was already an empathetic person, but I've learned more empathy about seeing different types of people from their walks of life and their challenges, and trying to be a part of that journey for them to be better in whatever capacity. And I think that really translated over to marketing and working as an agency to help a lot of brands. Granted, it's not medical issues they're going through, but they have challenges and they're looking for solutions, and being able to confidently communicate that to them, that was very helpful early on in my career.
Yeah, and what do you mention regarding just understanding people better? I'm sure, especially now. I know we'll talk about this later, but I believe you're doing a lot of consulting, right? Not just managing. So having that skill of really, like, being able to connect with people and make them accountable, I'm sure is, like, so helpful.
Yes, very much so. Especially when with consulting, where you have to tell someone to implement something, and then usually they do, other times they don't. So you have to keep, reminding them in professional ways, but also to encourage them to accomplish this, because they're paying you to get recommendations. So you're trying to give them everything else and guide them. So it's beneficial for everybody if they implement what you're recommending.
All right, let's jump now into mentorship. So I feel like what I love to ask people is, how would you define a mentor?
Ah, so I feel like, the cut and dry is somebody that you can trust, that will provide guidance for your career, your goals, that has less experience than you. But I think just from a more human perspective, it's genuinely wanting someone else to succeed, coming, you know, to provide them the tools and the guidance for them to take the necessary steps to accomplish their goals. But you're going to be there to make sure that they don't run off the rails and accomplish that goal by providing them knowledge, resources, opportunities. But you don't do the job for them. They have to do it themselves, but they will have to want to do it. And you're just there to make sure that they can get to that certain goal.
Yeah, and it's amazing because I feel like in when it comes to, like, human psychology, there's a part of us where it's like we think about ourselves all the time, right?
Hmm.
But then there's a part of self that has so much meaning in being able to give and to also um, see other people succeed.
Hmm.
And I love that aspect that you bring out, where, like, mentorship is about you know having that space and want and desire to, like,
Hmm.
take someone else and see them succeed, and that can bring you, like, joy and pleasure and meaning.
Yeah. It's very fulfilling. That's one of my favorite things about my job. And I had people that helped me get to where I am, and I feel like it's just naturally ingrained in me to want to do that for someone else that's interested in my line of work or the role, or the type of work that I do.
What would you say are the most important traits in a mentor? And in your
Mm.
experience?
Non-judgmental, candid, honest, motivating. I think I think those are
Yeah, no,
probably those ones. Yeah.
that's perfect. And then like if someone were to come to you and like you saw that like one thing and one trait in them, like, oh no, I don't want you to be my mentor. What would be something you
Arrogance.
would want to avoid? Arrogance. Oh,
Arrogance.
totally.
Yeah. You're coming to somebody that you sought out as a mentor, but you might be slightly intimidated by them because that whole. I feel like um, they're just more experienced than you. You feel like you might be wasting their time. But if they are warm and receptive and you use each other's time efficiently and effectively, that's great. But I have run into some people that, they need to get off their high horse because you're the next generation of that role or that industry that's coming through. So it's difficult to work with people that aren't willing to listen and might belittle you.
Yes, it's rough. And to be in that sort of environment really stinks and it stunts your growth.
Yeah, and it might deter somebody from exploring that career as a choice, and then that might be a lot. That's a huge loss, especially if they would have thrived in it otherwise.
Yeah. And so it's crazy. Like you as a person, especially if you have people in your life that you're mentoring or people look up to you, gotta be careful, right? What you say,
Hmm.
what you do, because you could change the course of someone else
Yeah,
depending on your comments. And so talking about that, one of your friends turned mentor, turned business partner, Pamela Lund, and you've mentioned her to me before.
yeah,
She was crucial in paving your path towards Advertise.
huge.
So would love to learn more about that journey and love to bring up like the mentorship of that.
Yeah, great question. Yeah, she's a wonderful human being. So I had known her through the industry, just through mutual friends for a number of years. I was working in house doing marketing and advertising for a few companies, but I felt like I hit a point to where I was no longer able to grow in that company. I was burned out. I had the responsibilities, but not the authority, even though technically by role and title and how long I had been there, I felt like I should have had more. But I got to a point where I didn't enjoy waking up during the week to go to work and I yearned for the weekend. I'm like, this is not the life I want to live. And I saw how much more freedoms my friends had, especially Pam, since I'd known her in a closer capacity at that point of, working for yourself. I had never worked at an agency, so I feel like I did myself a disservice there, always working in house, and I had a huge learning curve. But I finally reached out to her. I actually wanted to 9 months prior to actually reaching out to her, and I could talk to her about anything, but I kept putting off asking her if I could just shadow her for a day as she does her agency work and works with the multiple brands. But I was like, oh, I don't want to waste her time. And I should have given her the opportunity to tell me no, or whatever that answer would have been. But I waited until I really couldn't work in house anymore. So I finally sent an email kind of when I was upset about something. And I was like, hey, can I shadow you for a day? And she wrote back almost immediately and said, I'll do you one better. I'll give you half my clients. I'll teach you everything I know. And she had about 10 years more of experience than I did at that point. And she's like, you'll gift me half of my time back because I'm stretched thin. I'm a little burned out. I've taken on too much work and I'd like to start a different business in a different industry. So you would give me my time back. So it worked out really well. And she taught me so much and built up that confidence in me to talk to brands, to do sales calls, to learn about common questions that clients ask and to respond with confidence because I knew the responses, but I wasn't used to working in that capacity and having those conversations before to where I had to sell myself. And she taught like it was just an invaluable gift that she gave me. She gave me my livelihood. She gave me a lot of freedoms working for myself and building my own business. And yeah, it worked out great for both of us, I think. And we're still really good. She's like one of my best friends.
So let's unpack that a bit. Here's someone coming to you basically saying, hey, like on a silver platter, not that it's not hard work, but like literally half my business. So number one, like, what do you think she saw in you? Like to say like, oh my gosh, here's, I'm willing to not only, take this off, but invest in a human being and make them successful.
She's just a great person with a big heart, and it's just ingrained in her to be helpful to people. From what I know about her and the years that I've known her, she's always seeking out to provide solutions, support, and help and answers to people, whether it's for business or personal. So I think that was naturally in her, and the fact that I piqued her curiosity, I think, of how I could help her. And it was a good mutual deal to where, she's not just spending her time to benefit me. I was able to also give something in return to her. So I think it just naturally happened to where it was a good fit, and she saw something in me. And I think she knows this from how I am. If I tell someone I'm going to do something, I won't let them down. I'm externally motivated. So I think she also just took a chance on me too, because our friendship was relatively new at that point, and I think it's safe to say it's worked out.
So I'm such a big believer of that we have these signs and signals that are going around us every day. And like we just have to open up our eyes and see like we have these opportunities around us and
Yeah.
we just have to grab onto it. And to me, that's like kind of like what that situation was. For you, was it like was that intimidating? Like did you have second thoughts when you heard about like, am I the right one? Or was it like, oh wow, like this is an opportunity and I'm jumping for it?
I wanted to jump sooner, but I felt like maybe timing wasn't right and why I held off. But I was intimidated. I didn't want to impede on her time. And that's what held me off from asking for 9 months until I got to a point where it's like, what's the worst she can say? No. And knowing her, like, I think she'd still be my friend, even if she said, no, I can't do this right now, or for whatever reason that may have been. But asking such a small question that held so much weight, I was not expecting that response. And now, when I run into situations where I want to ask someone a question that might be someone I hold in high regard, or maybe somebody that's not easily attainable, I just put it out there. I'm like, the worst they can do is say no, maybe not respond at all. But on the flip side, it's worth asking that question and putting yourself out there, because you never know what kind of things can transpire after.
And when you think about it, like that has such a connection to like what you do, right?
Yeah.
Every day we're running campaigns, we're trying things out. We don't know if it's going to work or
Yeah.
not, but we do that there. So why can't we do it in life when we're just asking people questions?
A lot of us just hold ourselves back.
Right. Right. We're our worst issue, right? We got to put
Yeah.
ourselves out of the way to move forward.
But also, I personally don't want to live my life wondering in 10, 20 years and like, oh, what if I just asked that silly little question? What would have happened?
Yeah. No, it's so powerful. That's so cool. As your marketing career started to grow, we've spoken about in the past, John Doherty was also a strong mentor for you. How did he help guide you with creating a successful business?
He, longtime industry friend. He worked in SEO for a long time for a number of brands. We stay usually connected online. We've hung out in person a number of times. Our families have hung out. But when he went on his own a few years back and started Credo and now Editor Ninja, he's really, it's just exciting to see a friend succeed and grow their businesses. But I'm also learning a lot from him. And he has a lot of entrepreneurial wisdom that I don't encompass, because our businesses are different. He's learning different things than I am. So I reached out to him, I think about 2 years ago, just to talk about pricing. And he's like, oof, you are significantly undercutting yourself. So I had to do some introspective work of like, what is the value of my work and how do I feel more comfortable raising my rates? And he helped put together a consulting package for me, because I had a few issues I needed to address to have more consistency and to, plan ahead in terms of revenue, profit, but also how much time am I spending doing X, because COVID hit, I had a baby, I don't have a lot of time. So I'm like, how do I maximize everything, but still provide value to my clients, but also grow my business under these other circumstances that are new? So he really helped shape some of our pricing models that we've been using the last couple of years. And he's just a great resource. If I have a question, I don't hesitate to reach out to him, and feel like it's mutual since he'll reach out to me as well.
Yeah, I love John. I have never met him in person, but I do follow him on Twitter. I love how like because he was like in the SEO world,
Yeah.
he often will now like tweet out like things that he knows will bug people in SEO, and I find that so funny. And
He's on a roll lately.
lately, I don't know what's going on, but yeah, and then also like I saw recently that he actually offers pricing strategy to
Mm-hmm.
agencies as like a service, which is really cool. But what this makes me think is like for you, it seems like I know Pamela was let's say not as much a peer, but yes, a peer. But like for you, peers really have been like your mentors and those people that you rely on. I don't always think people think about. Sometimes people think about mentors as being like someone like ahead of you or higher or older, but like what from what it sounds like from your experiences, it's really been like people, your peers, your friends, people on the same level.
Yeah, there was one other one that was earlier when I just began working at Search Marketing Expo. So I had just begun diving into more on paid search, paid social, and Marty Weintraub, who owns Aimclear, another agency. They've been around for a long time, very successful, super fun team, and just very creative. He, we work closely together because he was very involved with our conferences as a sponsor, as a speaker. And I got to know him in that first year of working for SMX and going to the shows. And it kind of naturally just happened that he's like, I can tell you're really into this. He's like, let me teach you some things I know if you'd be interested. You can call me anytime if you have questions, because I was learning on the job, right? So I didn't have classes I could take at that point for how to do Facebook ads or Google ads. And, there's resources online, but learning from someone else or running into unique scenarios and maybe needing another perspective or someone that is more experienced. So yeah, he's older than me. He's more experienced. He's been doing this for much longer. He runs a bigger agency. So that was another person that was critical to the early days of my marketing and advertising career.
Yes, Marty's a special guy, and that's so cool that you have a connection with them. And what's cool is like a recurring theme that we're hearing. If you're a marketer, go to marketing conferences, because I like to say I like to learn a lot from those. But honestly, it's the white space in between, the time where you get to meet people and you get to meet lifelong friends and peers and mentors, right? People.
Yeah, networking, I don't think I'd be where I am in my career if it weren't for events, mostly in person, because there's a different level of connection than you do online. But it's good to keep building those relationships while you don't see each other, while you live all over the globe.
You're really good about keeping in touch with people, and you have to give and take, and you do really good about giving. It's awesome. In addition to your role as a mentor to your direct team at Advertise, you also mentor college students, which is something I like to do. Yeah. So what do you love about guiding the next generation?
It's just exciting to see what they're into, what they're learning, because I didn't have those opportunities. So I get to see, I get to learn from them indirectly of, how I can apply my learnings of just interacting with them and what they're learning at school to what we're doing at work to maybe younger generations, but also just seeing eager, curious minds that are younger and thinking about how I was at that point. And you could tell that they're really wanting to get into this field, but just might have questions, looking for guidance or internships, and providing them the real world experience of like, here's what it's like to really work in this. Is this something you definitely want to do? Is there something about it that is holding you back, maybe that you're hesitant to pursue this? So I feel like I teach some of these classes, like I have other friend professors like you, and they'll bring me in for the end of the year, end of the, December, they'll bring me in for like a guest lecture or an ask me anything type of thing with marketing classes. And then a few of them, I encourage them afterward to reach out to me on LinkedIn or social channels, or to email me if they have questions. And oftentimes I'll get a handful of them that will reach back after, and I'll help them through to graduation and getting their first internship or maybe their first full-time job in marketing. And it's fulfilling to see them accomplish these things on their own, but be able to give them resources and tools and some of my experiences to maybe make it easier on them to not run into some of the same hurdles that I did.
I love it. I wish more were like you. And sometimes mentoring a student can be viewed as like a task or to do. So why do you think it's important for marketing leaders, and especially digital marketing leaders in our industry, to take on students?
It's important to help the next generation of marketers come through and to continue the good work that we do for brands, and to provide them what we're able to, tools, so then we're the ones that are going to be employing them. So we want to make sure that we're aligned, we're innovating, we're being creative, and always just pushing the needle a bit further. Platforms are changing, technology is changing, so it's far from stagnant in terms of an industry. So I think it's really important to provide what we can to these younger marketers, or somebody maybe that's entering a second, third career and wants to explore it at an older age. It's a very genuine community of people. So I feel like it's just natural for most of us, as you've seen at conferences or just being on Twitter or LinkedIn, that people are like, hey, I have a question. And even though we're technically all competitors, everyone's like, hey, yeah, I know this, or here's a solution for that. I ran into this problem, or no, I'll look into it. And I feel like everyone sees a mutual benefit from it, that there's give and take. And at the end of the day, I feel like all of us just win.
I can't stress that fact of being part of the digital marketing community, because I think sometimes we take it for granted that there's so much camaraderie and sharing of information and knowledge. It's like, what? Isn't every industry like that? So we're lucky. All I'm saying is we do it a lot from peers, but some people forget about the people at first coming in. I'm not saying everyone. Yeah. So people like Akvile, who are actually like focusing on the students as well is really awesome and very helpful.
It's also like a breath of fresh air. It's like in between my daily tasks at work and life, it's nice to have something new pop up and questions that will make me think. But also, I just always find fulfillment from helping other people.
Before earlier on, you mentioned that clarity, trust, and candor are keys to success. How do you try to instill this into those that you mentor?
By giving them examples, by trying to use our time efficiently and effectively, because everyone's busy. But if this is something you really want to pursue, come prepared with questions, be eager, but also be concise in what your goals are, so then I can help you accomplish those goals. I think it's just important to just dive in and say, here's what I want, and here's how I'm going to do it. But I need you to help me fill in the spaces because I'm new to this.
That is very sage advice. Thank you. So I think we've covered a lot of wonderful aspects of mentorship. So now I want to pop into marketing. I like to say that you are the queen of paid social. Um, so this is obviously, it's wonderful to have you here. So for those people who don't know about social media advertising, why don't we give them a short definition or like a dive into, okay, what is social media ads?
Tons of platforms out there. Most people associate with Facebook, Instagram, Meta ads, the sponsored content you pay for to get more visibility. On paid search side, you'll go to Google, it's the top, it'll say ad next to it. So it's finding ways to reach your audiences that will be most likely to be interested and engage with the content, the products, or the services that you're trying to sell. So to get people to learn about your brand, but also get them into your funnel to get them to become customers at some point and get them to either open up their wallets, to download something, to sign up for something. Depends on the business goals. But it's really interesting because there's the targeting aspect of it is done by interest and behaviors. So I find that the psychology part of that is very interesting, to find people that you think will be likely to become customers and like what you have to offer. And you can see the results right away, pretty much. Like you can see that if somebody made a purchase, attribution is a whole other topic, but it's not seamless and it's become much harder. But it's kind of, you have to be a data detective too, but you can see how much money you're bringing into the business from your efforts. So if you like to be fulfilled in that way and seeing the whole journey of what you're doing, this job might be for you.
Just to rehash that. So you mentioned top of funnel advertising, like getting people into the funnel, right? They might not be aware. And social media ads help with that aspect. And then also behaviors and interests, right? So we're not targeting keywords, but we're targeting people and what they like and what they don't like. So you've worked on many different social platforms, like we discussed at the beginning of the of the episode. And we know that social media, the advertising landscape, it changes all the time, always evolving.
Mm-hmm.
Is there one platform that you have enjoyed advertising on more than others? And because things change so much, maybe not, let's not say like what was the best one 5 years ago, but like nowadays, like what are you enjoying the most, whether it's related to clients or audiences,
Love-hate relationship at Meta ads. It performs really well. It has other issues. It's a little clunky in terms of the platform for running ads, but it has been around the longest. The prices are still good. You can reach anybody in the world pretty much and accomplish your business goals. But I always recommend diversifying, because if Meta goes down, your account gets disabled, which does happen. You want to still run ads on other platforms. So TikTok has been a big one for us this year. That's been really fun because it's more video content. It's short, it's engaging. It's just a new way of getting in front of people, especially younger demographics. So we've had a lot of fun there. And I would also say that I've been enjoying Quora ads. It's kind of like a search and social hybrid, but we've been seeing some interesting results there and running ads. It's easy. It's kind of like a very simplified version of Facebook ads. Fewer options, but it's interesting by the other types of ways you can target where you can't on Facebook.
And are you using Quora ads for e-commerce?
Yes. Mostly like home-based products for, like energy efficiency, things like that. Haven't done it with too many other clients, not like shoes, or, we typically stick to other platforms for those. And I have a lot of shoe clients for some reason, but we haven't moved over there for Quora. We've done medical and like home-based goods.
Yeah, basically areas where people are going to be asking those sort of questions. So they're actually going to be showing up there. Like, I don't know if people are going to be searching for like, what are the best shoes to wear to the prom,
Yeah.
Maybe.
That could be an Instagram question or Twitter.
Yeah, I agree. I don't want to like step back, but with Meta, obviously with all the changes in tracking and attribution, I feel like everything was taken away from us. Things are starting to come back a little bit. Like I know, like when you select, let's say certain different demographics or things, now you can actually see the conversion data. So where do you feel like we are right now from an attribution perspective, at least with Meta? Like, I know we're not back to where we were, but do you still feel confident suggesting it to people? Where do you think we're at now?
I do, but I educate with all clients of, it's overinflated. They're using a modeling system to kind of guess how many conversions are coming through. We can't get as granular as we used to, with age range, gender, different uh, audiences. So we've had a lot of things taken away that give us more insights, but usually we'll use Google Analytics and Shopify that's closer to the source of truth. But as long we do see a correlation that like certain campaigns they're performing well on both, but in terms of return on ad spend, sometimes it's overinflated to a point where it's not actually a positive ROAS. So we use multiple touch points, but we tell clients here's what's going on with the platform. This is a guess. Don't get too excited about these numbers. We use these to optimize what we're seeing in platform, but we're also going to use these other analytics tools to give us more information that might be more accurate. But attribution is difficult now. A lot of people have opted out since iOS 14. So we don't have a problem. No one's had pushback on spending more on Meta. And I think that, we've had one client, I think since the beginning of COVID that was like, disable it. And they took a hit across everything from organic social, huge drop in paid and organic search. And, that's a good example of, sometimes if you're not seeing a direct return on something, it doesn't mean it's still not part of the customer journey.
When it comes to reporting, you can log into Facebook, you can see what's going on. As you're saying, that's not really the one source of truth. So we have to look at analytics, Shopify. So how do you report? Like, do you just say, I'm not reporting? You have to look at all these places? Or do you actually like have a hybrid report? I'd love to know more about that.
Hybrid report, just so the client knows what's going on, but we will educate and reinforce of like, here's what this platform is saying, but this is the actual truth, or it's kind of like a little bit closer in here since we're not able to fully attribute everything. But we're using all the reporting that we have access to that can give us the closest to the truth. So as long as the client understands and they don't get upset, it's the best we can do.
Right. It's about setting expectations. And as long as they know, then they'll be okay.
Yeah, and we'll be honest in reporting. So we do weekly and monthly. For some clients, we've had fiscal reporting, just different date ranges. We didn't have a great week last week, but here's the hypothesis as to why that might have happened. And I feel like the benefit of working at an agency and seeing multiple brands, you have more visibility into trends that might happen, where if you're working in-house, there's pros and cons to both, but you only have access to maybe one, and you have to, use your network to be like, hey, did everyone else see this happen last week? And trying to narrow down what happened, and then be honest with the client. Be like, not every week is going to be a good week. There's a lot of external variables that might impact performance. So as long as you are open with the client, that will instill trust in that relationship, and they know that you're not just spending their money frivolously.
Yes, you definitely have to be on the same page, right? When you're not on the same page, then there's problems.
Yeah.
I know that with COVID and with iOS 14 and all the wonderful stuff that's happened in the past couple of years, you leaned more into consulting. So can you share a bit about what it looks like with consulting versus running campaigns and implementing? And basically the top tips for someone to figure out, like, what should I do? Should I do it myself and get a consultant, or should I actually hire someone to do everything? The fact that you do both, I feel like you've got wonderful insight.
I feel like if you are the service provider, I feel like it's good to do both. So then that way you are in the work, if there's new features, anything happening, you're able to more effectively communicate that to the client instead of saying, oh, I'm not sure, let me look into it, which is fine to say sometimes. I don't know every answer. I'll have to do some research, but I'm also managing accounts. I love doing that. I know that's, typically people that run agencies hand that off, but we're intentionally small, but sidebar. So I feel like being in that practice gives me the knowledge and the experience to quickly and effectively convey that information to consulting clients, where I feel like if I didn't do that, I would have to go off of other information. A lot of people that do consult, some get to the point where they might not be in the practice of running ads themselves, but I feel like that's so crucial to providing the education or the training to a certain client. If you're, greener, you may want to spend some time actually running campaigns, learning how the platforms behave, because you can pick up on algorithmic changes and be better informed. Whereas if you start consulting, you may not have enough experience to help somebody truly to the capacity that they might need it. From a client standpoint, if you are on the fence of if you want to do it yourself through consulting and training, hand it off to somebody entirely, it depends on your budget, I think. And small businesses will come to us for consulting because they usually have a smaller budget and aren't able to hire somebody in addition to their ad spend budget to manage it fully. So they'll do initial training. I'll teach them. I'll go through all the platforms that they're interested in, put together recommendations for them, sometimes build out shell campaigns so they can see how I set it up. So then they can copy them over and adjust it. So then, if we take a break for a month or two while they implement things and want to come back and discuss reporting and what metrics mean, most of our consulting relationships are like that. Some brands that are a little bit bigger than small business owners that have a little bit more budget, they will usually have someone else on their team be trained. And I'll consult with them because they're too busy with other things, which makes sense. There's a lot of hats to wear owning a business. And then larger brands usually will sometimes have me for an audit. We'll do consulting for a month and like, you know what, would you be interested in just managing it? Because it's not what we're interested in, or what's not, fitting into our schedules. And there's a craft to it, right? Like it's not rocket science by any means what we do, but if you're in it, like how to do it well, and you can really show results. Where a brand that's trying to scale may not have the resources internally to spread their staff a little thinner. So then that's where we can talk about having management.
I know a big part of paid social is the creative, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I know that you don't actually work with creative. You expect clients to come and bring creative with them. I would love to know like the decision behind that. And then also, have you lost any contracts because like they've come to you hey, what? You mean we've got to do the ads? What? So I'd love to dig down that a little bit.
I do worry though every time, but I have another friend that runs a creative agency relatively close to where I live, and we're very good friends and just peers. So we have worked together on occasion that if they do need somebody making creatives, whether it's just new specs, maybe completely whole new repository of creatives for launch or whatever it might be, we do partner them. So I do have somebody that can help, though it's not through advertise, but it is somebody that I trust and know they do excellent work, and their craft really is in photography, videography, and doing e-commerce creatives. So but most client, I have never had anybody say no. I do tell them I'm not a design shop. I think about it sometimes if I should start building that out, but it's such a specialized area now that I'm like, I'm still assessing, but I haven't lost business over it. I have solutions, whether, they choose to work with me or not, or we can take their existing assets. And I do have tools to where we can add subtle motion. We can add overlay text. So like we're able to do things to an extent, but to go shoot a video, that's not in our wheelhouse. So I'll usually recommend someone else and let the client choose. But I feel like we've gotten to a point in our business to where we work with brands that typically have in-house creative teams. So we do provide creative direction based on our experience with different platforms, what's in right now, how we can stand out and beat the competitors with something new and future forward. So I don't have a direct solution internally, but I have solutions that I can offer based on what their budget or their needs are.
Yeah, and that's wonderful. And I think like this is an education opportunity for many, because a lot of people like, oh, I want to do Facebook ads, but they don't understand the time and effort and what's required, right? It's not just like, okay, put money in the machine, but like there's all these aspects, and you got to find like the right partner for you and who can help with the different aspects. So I love how you set it up, and I think it'd be cool one day if you do creative also, but I can understand why you're staying away from it these days.
I have ideas. I'll share them, but it's just like, maybe I can go back to those graphic design roots and maybe get into it. But
full circle, right?
We'll see.
You've won many accolades in your career. Is there one that sticks out to you as being the most special, or one that you take the most pride in?
I won Toastmaster of the Year 2017. I don't know if this is going to be on video, but I have it here on my desk. And I had always just had terrible stage fright. I would perform since I was a child. My mother, my grandmother, my aunt, they're all classically trained professional pianists. So I grew up playing on stage, but I would just black out. I don't know, I would do the song and I would get up and I have no idea what would happen. And then same thing kind of progressed through my youth. I took one public speaking class in high school, two in college, and still I would black out and I would just shake and sweat and I would not be present. So I realized when I launched my business 8 years ago that I need to confidently convey what I can do to help other people, my experience, my worth, what my rates are without any hesitation. And I knew that most of, like, all of my industry friends are public speakers. And I was just like, just hanging out here. Just, when are you going to go up and speak, Ak? And it was always like, no, no, no. So I decided to invest in myself. And a friend of mine, Debbie, she invited me to go to a Toastmasters meeting, and I'd pushed it off for years because I was intimidated. And I went, and she's like, "There's no obligation to speak. You just go and meet at a Panera Tuesday mornings for an hour." Have you been to one before?
I haven't, but like I'm envisioning it.
Yeah, and they have them at different locations, but you pay like $50 every 6 months, and it was just the best value. For that first meeting, I there's different exercises that you do, and there's planned prepared speeches based on this curriculum, so you can progress through it and learn how to give different types of speeches. And there's business ones for presentations and sales pitches. And I was like, if I need to succeed as a business owner, I need to communicate concisely and effectively and with confidence. Right? No one's going to do business with me if I'm just like, So my first meeting, I had to speak for 60 seconds about any topic. They're called table topics. And I said 29 ums in 1 minute. I was so nervous. It took me 7 months and I got to zero. And every time you said or any filler word, they would ring a bell. And I was like, I'm conditioned. So we had moved and I started at a new club, and I made a promise to myself. I was like, okay, I'm not going to miss a single meeting. And for 1 year, I did not miss a single meeting. And it was just once a week. And they nominated me Toastmaster of the Year, and I became the club president. And I put it on Twitter, hey, I'd like to start speaking at conferences. Is there anyone that's prepping a show for next year that's looking for speakers, maybe somebody that's a novice? And I got invited for my first event to Salt Lake City to go speak at the Adobe campus at SLC SEM at the time. I didn't know until the day of that I was the keynote speaker.
Oh my God.
And I was like, okay, I'm like, okay, put on your big girl pants. I'm here. Let's just do this. I've been prepping for a year and I did it. And that really just brought more opportunities. And I am now fully present when I speak and I enjoy it. I still get nervous. So don't get me wrong, but I am present. And that's the biggest thing that I'm very proud of.
Wow. I would have never have guessed that about you. Like, wow. Like, it's amazing because it seems like it's so natural. And I'm sure now it is natural, but it's amazing that you put in that work and to become that. But that's so cool. Like, ask, to be the keynote at your first talk. Wow. That's crazy.
Well, then everyone told me like, oh, this is your first time. I thought you've been speaking for years. And I had worked at SMX, which is a conference company.
Right.
And I had to do a few like introductory, like, welcome to the show. Here's where you can find things. But I was mostly just speaking online, which I'm very comfortable with. But to speak in front of a large room of people, whew, sweat. So I guess I tricked people, but it worked out in the end. I didn't disappoint anybody.
Well, you set the expectations and then you met them and then you're all fine. All right, we're going to move to our lightning round. What are the top 3 podcasts that you're listening to that you recommend to our listeners?
I'm a true crime person, so I do really enjoy criminal. But I just finished one last week called Sold a Story. And it's a 6-part miniseries about reading in this country and how I have a toddler, so this is kind of Pam actually shared this with me and said it might find it helpful. But I guess about 65% of children in the U.S. Are not up to 3rd grade reading standards, and there's this whole thing that was implemented in the 80s that the U.S. is trying to undo now about not using phonics. So I was concerned and I wanted to learn, but it's pretty appalling how many children can't read very well. So it was just an interesting story about this whole curriculum that got introduced from New Zealand. And if you're a parent, highly recommend listening to that. It's interesting, but also really eye-opening. I like The Daily from the New York Times. It gives me a quick recap. Doesn't take too much time, especially with, this is kind of the busy season for my line of work, maybe for you too, but I work a lot with e-commerce brands. So I haven't had too much time. So nice short podcasts are kind of really golden at the moment. But in the new year, I'm going to catch up because I have a lot.
Yes, I have that list just like you. As we wrap up, what are you currently working on? What's your next big project? What does 2023 look like for Akvile and Advertise?
I'm trying to still figure that out, honestly. It's going into 9 year of our business and things have been coasting really well. I've got good processes down, but I'm trying to think of what's next. Do we build out another service of some sort? Do I hone in further on something else? So I don't have an answer today because I think I'm going to take the last week of the year off and I'm going to spend that time writing out some new goals and what I want to do. I feel like I've been playing it kind of safe the last year because of other external life factors and just letting things run smoothly. But I really want to do something that's going to make a positive impact in the near. So I'll keep you posted.
It seems like, and it sounds like, that everything that you've put your mind to, you've been able to accomplish. So I'm sure that the 2022 planning session for 2023, please God, will work out really well.
I hope so.
So where can listeners learn more about you and your business?
You can find me at akvertise.com. So it's akvertise.com, like advertise, but people call me Ak. Or you can find me on Twitter at Akvile DeFazio. I'm very active there, or LinkedIn as well with my name.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Akvile, for joining us and being a guest on the Digital Marketing Mentor. And thank you, listeners, for tuning into the Digital Marketing Mentor. We can't wait to see you next time.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for listening to the Digital Marketing Mentor podcast. Be sure to check us out online at thedmmentor.com and at the DM Mentor on Instagram. And don't forget to subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to your podcasts for more marketing mentor magic. See you next time.